Here's trouble. What are you doing here? Where's Barry?
Barry was out of town.
Oh, okay. That's my alter ego. Let's do this. Welcome to our third photo critique. I'm Ray Salisbury from New Zealand, here to help you to improve your photography. We will analyse about 22 images from my worldwide audience, giving each one some constructive criticism. However, if you disagree, please comment below.
I disagree.
What? You are the most disagreeable person on the planet.
No, I'm not.
You just disagreed, again. Look, if this is going to work, you can't talk over me. Look, if I've got the stress ball, it's my turn to talk. Got it?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, let's look at the first image. Right, this first image is from Mike in the French Alps. I was beside myself with joy when I first saw this image. It's 5 out of 5 in my humble opinion. He shot this at f9 with a shutter speed of 1/250th of a second to freeze the snowfall. Excuse the pun. The reason this shot works so brilliantly is the composition. Mike's used this bright orange post on the snow mound as the foreground interest, the tyre tracks as a lead-in line, the buildings as a framing device, and the tiny figures as the main focal point. They also show a sense of scale for this landscape. This shot is so well balanced. Beautiful.
Nah, there's some sensor spots up in the top left of the photo. Maybe it's falling snow, I'm not sure, but I must admit it is nice to see the camera turn around to portrait orientation. That's quite rare. It gives some depth to the scene from foreground to background, in my opinion.
Well, I'm glad we agree on something. One more thing about this image. While the colours are warm, ironically, this image evokes a ton of mood, the magical third dimension of good landscape photography. Well done, Mr. Briley. Let's move on. This second image is shot in one of my favourite countries, Switzerland. The trees are naked, it's the depths of winter. There's so much beauty here, so much potential. This was shot from a bridge, obviously, and it's all about the reflections. She's done well to centre the horizon and go for a symmetrical composition. What do you reckon?
Yeah, but there's no wow factor. Obviously, there's quite poor lighting. I think it might be a matter of waiting for an hour or so until the sun illuminates the scene. Yeah, I'd give this a 3 out of 5.
Okay, let's move on to the far end of Europe, to Poland. Kazia has done a great job here. She's waited for a bluebird day with clear skies and no wind. So the reflections are crisp. There's lots of mood. The symmetrical mirror image composition works really well to evoke a sense of calm and harmony. What do you think?
Yep, agreed. I mean, technically she's just used a wide open aperture of f5, but she gets away with it. By using a tripod, the shutter was open for about 8 seconds. However, in Photoshop, the histogram showed that this shot is underexposed a smidgen. Just a simple boost in levels to correct the exposure, like this, and a panoramic crop, like so. Perfect. I'd give this one a 3 out of 5, easily.
Give her a break, she's just using a Nikon Coolpix. I think it's pretty solid and I'd give it a 4. By the way, if you want to improve your composition, why not enroll in my online course? It's pretty cheap. Check up there for more information. Let's look at the next image. Let's cross the Atlantic to the US of A. This image is called Moonrise at Mobius Arch in Alabama Hills near Mount Whitney. There's lots to like about this picky. The contrasting colours of cool blue versus the warm rocks. The framing device of the actual arch itself. This guy has pushed himself, staying out really late for the moon to illuminate the scene. Full marks for effort.
Hey, he's got the same DSLR as you. Looks like he had a sturdy tripod for this 15-second exposure. I think the arch looks pin sharp. He hasn't moved the camera at all. I think he must have focused on that arch. However, the distant peaks seem a bit soft for my liking. I think some focus stacking would have worked well here. Yeah, but there's a massive sensor spot right there on the top left of the sky. And also the moon seems to be too close to the archway. You know, when you get two elements like that so close together, it creates tension. Not good. A miserly 3 from me.
Me thinks you're being a bit pedantic. The image does look a little bit flat. A bit of post-processing could accentuate the color contrast. I'd give it a solid 3.5, maybe 4. Let's move on. Right, now we've moved right down to Arizona in the desert. I'm in two minds about this photo.
So am I.
The composition is quite pleasing. Initially, my eye goes to the rock tours, which preside over the houses. This contrast gives a sense of scale. Like, for instance, how large the rocky knobs are in comparison to the buildings. I like the quirky paint jobs too. What do you reckon?
Well, I think there's something missing here. The lighting just isn't right, but if the photographer had waited an hour or 3, maybe better lighting would have made this scene look amazing. I'd give it a solid 3.
Yep, agreed. Let's move on to somewhere else in the US of A. It's a national park with some spectacular mountain scenery. This guy has employed the rule of thirds, with the mountain being the main focal point. He's also placed that on a junction of the 3x3 grid. There's a touch of symmetry there too with the reflection. Pity it was windy. What do you think?
Okay. Now, while the image, the composition is certainly solid, I think it needs a boost in contrast, particularly in the mid-tones. I'd give the mid-tone contrast a boost like this, and especially in the mountains. I've also applied a high-pass filter over the mountains to sharpen the image. You see, all digital photos need some sharpening, but I'd give this a solid 4.
You're beginning to be generous. Moving on to the Great Falls on the Potomac River, which is quite iced up. This is near Washington, D.C. First up, Doug, awesome effort in getting out there, hiking over there to the waterfall on a cold winter's day. That earns my respect. My main teaching point for you is to use your feet. Number 1 rule of composition, use your feet. In this shot, the foreground branches are obstructing the view of the waterfall. You need to walk around and find a better vantage point.
For me, this would be a meager 2. Sorry.
Fair enough. Okay, still in the US of A. Here's a regular contributor with the Sony A77. It's always good to have a clear focal point, like this bridge. There's absolutely no ambiguity as to what this shot is about. He's taken the time to process his image and make the colors really pop. And the picture is nice and sharp.
Yeah, but I think he should have taken a step backwards. For me, the bridge is just too big. A bit of space around it would have been nice. Also, if you look closely, there's a speck in the sky up there on the top right on the cloud. That could have been erased in a matter of seconds. I'd give this a 3.
Agreed. Okay, next shot. Here's another shot from Maryland. The photographer's nailed the camera settings and the exposure and placed the horizon in the center. The horizon is dead straight. What's your 2 cents worth?
Well, firstly, I'd add an ND grad filter to the sky, like so, and then that boosts the contrast, and then I'd add a dehaze filter as well. Done. Now, let's talk composition. I know that's your baby, but, you know, really, if you're going to place the horizon dead center, you've got to have a good reason for it. Otherwise, it's boring. I mean, to fix this, you'd crop out some of the sky, like so. What do you think?
Yeah, that's better. I agree. A solid 3.5 from me. Okay, this one is named The Knob at Sunset.
What do you think?
It's shot at Woods Hole in Falmouth in Massachusetts. Bill is shooting on manual mode with a Canon Rebel. His camera settings look good. Looking at the histogram, he's nailed the exposure. So far, so good. Any thoughts?
Well, technically, I think it's okay. It's a bit soft, albeit a bit noisy in the sky. I think he must have used a tripod because it's 1/15 of a second and it's not that unsharp. But did he use a cable release?
Point taken. Also, the composition doesn't really work for me. If he'd stood on that shoreline, risking wet feet, he'd have gotten a breaking wave to feature as a sort of lead-in lion. Don't know. Let's move on. Right, here's another Arizonian photographer shooting at Prescott. There's some sort of lake, man-made or natural, I'm not sure. In beautiful clear weather, Jim has been blessed with great side lighting. It must be morning as the lake is picture-perfect calm. Not a breath of wind. Technically, this shot is solid and super sharp. He's only got a Nikon Coolpix, and he shot this one at an aperture of f3. Insane. But it does prove you don't have to lug around a hefty DSLR to get a sharp shot. Your thoughts?
Oh, well, yeah, he's done well to crop out the sky and concentrate on the good stuff. There is sufficient sort of layering to create a sense of depth in the scene. And if you look closely, there's actually 7 tiny human figures on those rocks down there. Nice. Provides a bit of a sense of scale. Nevertheless, I think he could have scouted out a better angle. A solid 3.5 from me. Okay, let's look at another image, another moonlit image. This one is from Vermont up in New England. Looks like Lake Champlain. Stan has shot this with a Nikon D200 at about 8 o'clock in the evening. I know this one from the photo's metadata, which we can check. Firstly, I love the simplicity of this piece. It's melancholic and moody, although quite flat. Let's utilize the levels function in Photoshop to boost the contrast, like so. Now let's use a simple luminosity mask to isolate the sky so we can darken it and add more saturation to the colors. Now we'll apply some tonal contrast and Nik effects just to the bottom half, like this. Also, the shoreline is a bit wonky. Let's fix that and crop a bit more closely. Done? Nice. Now the moon is placed using the rule of thirds too. I feel this image is now more balanced. What do you reckon? Yeah, that is looking a much better one. Now you've fixed it up, but I'm not sure if this guy really knew what he was doing. He was shooting on an aperture of f4.
Hey, I thought we were supposed to be encouraging.
Good for shooting people, but not landscapes.
Keep it positive, please.
I'd give it a solid 3.
If folks want to get off auto for good, they would do well to enroll in my camera course. It's called Discover Your DSLR, and click up there for more info. Right, let's move on. Okay, here's another photograph from our friends in America. This old wooden fence was shot on a humble Fujifilm FinePix compact. The camera's metadata betrays the fact that he shot this on a wide open aperture of about f5, hence the shallow depth of field. But that's not really an issue. It depends what the photographer was trying to achieve, if he was trying to blur the background or not. What I'm more interested in as an ex-art teacher is composition. And I think he's deliberately used this fence as a lead-in line to take viewer's eye into the scene. Your thoughts?
Yeah, but it takes the viewer's eye into the scene, but then off the edge of the frame. It doesn't take it to any specific focal point. I'll be generous and give it a 2. Huh.
Fair enough. A 2 it is. Sorry. Well, this guy sounds French, or at least his town in St. Louis, USA does. He's titled this one, Feeling Blue. It is nice to see folks record a single object, even if it's not attractive, like this gnarly old tree. What's your opinion?
Well, unfortunately, I can't see the wood for the overpowering vignette around the edges. Too much for my liking, Ray. I think without that vignette effect, it would have worked a lot better. So, a humble 2 from me.
Point taken. We'll have to give this a humble 2. Sorry. Right, now moving up north to Canada. Peter has shot this remarkable scene at the early hour of about 7:30 in the morning. I know that because I checked the metadata in the photo. I'm struck by the wonderful light. He's employed the rule of thirds with obvious lead-in lines, but it's the mood that dominates. The rising sunlight punching through those layers of mist. Beautiful.
Yeah, well, I think it looks like Pete knows what he's doing. He shot this on aperture priority at f11, according to the metadata in the photo, but I think he needs to fix a few more things before submitting the image for critique.
Let's add a touch of mid-tone contrast.
That's better.
And you may notice the horizon is not straight. Let's fix this. Rotate the image slightly and crop some of the sky out, like so.
Now the sun is on the rule of thirds too. While there is a bit of lens flare there, it's much better, much more improved, and I'd give this a generous 4.
Me too. That's 4 out of 5. Well done. Let's move on to another Canadian who's making her first attempt at shooting the Northern Lights. Apparently this was shot a few years back, and I've never seen an aurora, but I know that's really hard to predict and really hard to photograph. You know, good effort. So she's done well just to position herself and be ready to capture this shot. It's a long exposure of 4 seconds, and the foreground trees seem sharp enough to me.
Wow, the greens are mesmerizing. Let's look at the histogram. This image is a bit too dark. Using the levels slider in Photoshop, we can correct this. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Done.
Yeah. Because of the difficulty of the shot, I'd give it a good 3. Yeah. Okay. Moving south. This is another Canadian, but I think she shot this one in Australia, in the desert, while on holiday. I could be wrong. Again, a simple composition that's striking. Less is more. Hey, if Nancy wanted to portray the starkness of the brazen desert with the emptiness of the open sky, well, she succeeded. What do you reckon? Hey, wait a minute. We're getting out of time here, so be quick.
This is a good composition.
No, I think it's a good solid 4, in my opinion. Let's move on across to Asia. This is one shot in Singapore. This young photographer has used a Canon 1200D to shoot a local scene. First up, let's talk composition. This appears like a typical tourist snapshot to me. Sorry, but I think more time should have been spent in scouting around to get a better angle, perhaps by shooting at the base of the jetty or near it, looking down its length to the really nice modern structure at the end. There's lots of potential there. You just have to get there earlier before the good light happens and do some scouting. Let's darken the sky like this and crop out the top part that's overexposed. That's better, don't you think? Hey, what do you reckon? Just be brief, please.
Oh yeah, and the jetty wharf
thing looks slanted, like the posts aren't straight in the water. Let's fix that in Photoshop. Yeah, but more importantly, he should have used a more appropriate aperture than f4 to make sure everything was pin sharp, and a lower ISO to reduce digital noise in the sky.
Fair comment. George has submitted this picky of the Flinders range over the ditch in Aussie.
Yeah.
The colours are brilliant and the composition is quite pleasing. He's used the rule of thirds with a clear focal point. Your thoughts?
Well, Ray, I think this image is oversaturated. I feel he's overcooked this image while post-processing in PaintShop Pro. Too much processing has created nasty artifacts in the image, which isn't sharp. So generally it's not too bad though. I'd give it a solid 3.
Okay, it's a 3 out of 5. Here's another image from another Aussie from across the ditch. This guy's shooting on a Pro model full frame DSLR. So as expected, the shot's really sharp, the foreground and the wharf jetty thing. The photo has a really nice color scheme and the composition works quite well. He's cleverly used the shoreline to lead us up to the jetty. We follow the structure along to the lamp post. Your thoughts?
Well, the subject matter and the reflections appear sharp. The only technical flaw I can see is a sensor spot in the top right there. Sensor spots appear when you're changing the lens and the sensor gets dirty. And you'll only see them in your images if you're shooting at a very narrow aperture of, say, f/22. But the more I look at this image, the more I like it. I'd give this a really easy 4. 4.5 in my books. Okay, this penultimate shot was taken by Helen up in Ireland. This is a change from the regular landscape wide-angle shots. I think it's icicles on stalks of grass. This lady has an eye for detail. She's captured the dynamic angles of the stalks sticking out of the water. It's simple, but a good record. What's your 2 cents worth? Yeah, the layout is effective, but I think it really lacks colour and mood. It's a solid photograph though. I'll give it a 3. Okay, well, moving on to our final submission. It's from Herman, taken in his homeland of South Africa. Firstly, it's refreshing to see a shot with snow in it from this part of the world. I'm used to seeing wildlife shots taken in the desert. And secondly, I must say that this composition of the Drakensberg Mountains looks really well. It was taken in Natal, and I like the way the angles of the landscape, they sort of do this.
The foreground hill overlaps the background one. It sort of creates the illusion of depth. Remember, photographs have height and width, but they don't actually have depth. They're two-dimensional abstracts. So he's done well to create sort of the illusion of depth by overlapping stuff. Sorry, I'm going over time myself.
But I agree. I see I'm not that disagreeable. Personally, I just crop the top and maybe the bottom out, making like a panoramic shot. Like this. What? It's not fair. Okay, right, let's look at Herman's second image, taken in South Africa as well. And this one is, it's called The Valley of Desolation. I quite like it. This time he's shooting into a sunset sky. Normally the foreground would be very dark silhouettes. It appears that Norman has bracketed his exposures and fused a sky image with a foreground image of the same scene. It's a valiant effort. What do you think? Your final thoughts? Yeah, this shot does have an HDR feel about it, Ray. The telltale signs is when you look really close at the edges of the mountains and trees. You can see there's a halo effect behind the rock stacks on the left. My suggestion is that this guy learns how to use luminosity masking in Photoshop. While it is an advanced technique, I feel this guy's at the stage where he needs to master this. So, be challenged. Luminosity masking is in your latest course, isn't it, Ray? You can click up here to learn how to fix your photos in Photoshop. Hey, thanks for being part of this. If you'd like your images critiqued by me, check the description panel below where it says show more. And finally, if you'd like your images to look way more professional, if you'd like to reach your potential as a photographer, why not enroll in my Locations course? Time to get out of here.